Picture this. You're the ruler of the entire universe. You've got unlimited power, immortality, and control over time itself. Life is good. Then someone tells you that one of your own children is destined to overthrow you and take everything away. What do? If you're Kronos, the answer is simple. You eat them. All of them. To understand why Kronos became history's worst father, we need to go back to his own daddy issues. Kronos wasn't born a monster. He was made into one by a cycle of violence that started long before he ever had children. His father, Uranus, was the original deadbeat dad of mythology. Not content with just neglecting his kids, Uranus actively imprisoned his children, the Cyclopes and the hundred-handed ones, in the depths of Tartarus because he thought they were too ugly and powerful. This wasn't just cruel. It was cosmic injustice on a universal scale. Kronos didn't eat his father's children for fun. He liberated them. But liberation came with a price, patricide. With the adamantine sickle given to him by his mother Gaia, Kronos castrated his father and took control of the cosmos. And as Uranus bled, he delivered a curse that would haunt Kronos forever. Just as you have overthrown me, so too will you be overthrown by your own son. Ancient Greeks understood something we often forget today. Prophecies weren't suggestions, they were cosmic law. When the fates spoke, reality itself bent to make their words come true. Fighting a prophecy wasn't just futile. It was the very act of fighting it that usually caused it to happen. But Kronos couldn't accept this. The idea that he would lose everything he had gained, that he would suffer the same fate as his father, drove him to desperate measures. So when his wife Rhea gave birth to their first child, Kronos made a calculated decision. If no children survived to adulthood, no child could overthrow him. He swallowed Hestia whole. From our modern perspective, eating your children seems like the act of a madman. But in the cosmic logic of Greek mythology, Kronos' solution was almost reasonable. Consider the alternatives. Killing them outright. Divine beings don't die easily. Even chopped into pieces, they could potentially regenerate or return. Imprisonment. His father tried that. It didn't work long-term, and it created the very resentment that led to rebellion. Exile. You can't exile someone to a place where they can't eventually return with an army. But swallowing them? That kept them alive, thus avoiding the cosmic punishment for killing divine children, while rendering them completely powerless. They were suspended in a timeless void within his stomach, alive but unable to grow, learn, or plot against him. It was, in its horrific way, a perfect solution. One by one, they came: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon. Each time Rhea handed him a newborn, Kronos opened his mouth and swallowed another future threat. Each act of cannibalism was simultaneously an act of love and terror. Love for his position as king of the cosmos, terror of losing everything he had fought to achieve. The really chilling part? It worked. For years, Kronos ruled unopposed while his children floated in digestive limbo, conscious but powerless. He had seemingly broken the cycle of succession that had governed the cosmos since the beginning of time. But Kronos made one crucial mistake. He forgot that the women in Greek mythology are not to be underestimated. Rhea, watching her husband devour child after child, reached her breaking point when Zeus was born. Instead of handing over her youngest son, she wrapped a stone in swaddling clothes and presented it to Kronos, who was apparently too busy being a cosmic ruler to notice he was swallowing a rock. Meanwhile, Zeus grew up in secret, protected by nymphs and fed on ambrosia and nectar. He learned about his true heritage, his imprisoned siblings, and his destiny. And when he was old enough, he returned to fulfill the prophecy his father had tried so desperately to prevent. Here's what makes the Kronos myth brilliant. His very attempt to avoid the prophecy created the conditions that made it inevitable. By eating his children, Kronos created a legitimate grievance that justified rebellion, ensured his children would be allies rather than rivals when freed, demonstrated exactly the kind of paranoid tyranny that needed to be overthrown, gave Zeus the moral authority to use violence against his father. In trying to prevent his downfall, Kronos authored it. The myth of Kronos isn't just about a god with serious impulse control issues. It's about the psychology of power, the futility of trying to control the future through violence, and the way fear can turn even rational beings into monsters. Kronos made perfect sense within his own logic. Every action he took was calculated to preserve his position. But perfect logic based on imperfect assumptions leads to perfect disaster. In our world, we see this pattern repeated constantly. Leaders so afraid of losing power that they destroy the very things that gave them power in the first place. Parents so terrified of their children's independence that they stifle the growth that would make them proud. People so afraid of change that they create the exact conditions that make change inevitable. The ancient Greeks understood that some stories need to be horrifying to be true. Sometimes the most rational response to an impossible situation creates the very outcome you were trying to avoid. And sometimes, being a good parent means accepting that your children are supposed to surpass you, not swallowing them whole to prevent it. Kronos ate his children because, within the brutal logic of divine succession, it made perfect sense. The tragedy is that perfect sense can still lead to perfect evil, and the only way to break these cycles is to choose love over fear, even when fear feels perfectly rational. That's a lesson worth chewing on.